evening and welcome to Rawat Conference. Thank you all for joining us this evening. My name is Fahad Al-Ubaidli, Head of Program at M7, the Creative Startup Hub here in Doha, Qatar. Firstly, I wanted to start with a quick introduction about M7 as its newly established entity. M7 is all about facilitating, connecting, and creating an environment for designers that convey to creativity and innovation, and most importantly, sustainability from an entrepreneurial perspective. M7 is one of the many upcoming initiatives that Her Excellency Sheikh Hamiyasa bint Hamad Al Thani, the chairperson of Qatar Museum Doha Film Institute, to foster emerging designers are building an ecosystem from the ground up. The building represents many different elements that you will see in the upcoming month. From high-end exhibitions will feature fashion and design and innovation. And we also going to have the fashion and design incubator run by Qatar Development Bank. And the concept store will be curated especially for emerging designers and a co-working space for creatives to connect and work together to build the creative economy here in Doha. Keep following us on social media to hear more about M7. Secondly, I wanted to highlight the important role of our programs to bring those connections through by making experts and opportunities available to our local designers through mentorship program, talk workshops that are curated by our team in collaboration with local and international entities. I'm so excited about this panel discussion because it's time to make change. As a fashion designer, I was pushed by the industry to produce more and quicker for my brand to scale up and become part of the fashion landscape. I knew deep down inside, like I was making the wrong decisions or I needed to make change, but I was waiting for the transition to come from the industry. But then I realized that no single industry is going to change the world. But I do believe if each one of us start to make small changes, we're going to see an impact. Joining me for this panel, this great session are leaders from the industry who will give us insight into how we can do this. Firstly, I would like to introduce my friend and the chair of fashion department of VCU Qatar here in Doha, the first fashion and design school established in the MENA region since 20 years. And Laura Jones, celebrity stylist and the founder of Frontlash magazine about sustainability, fashion, and activism. Let's start, and I would like for each one of you guys to speak a little bit about yourself and give us a little bit about background about yourself for our audience. We can start with you, Chris.
Oh, thanks, Fahad. At first, thank you so much for inviting me here this evening. This is absolutely one of our most important topics at Virginia Commonwealth University, not only here in Qatar, but as well as in Richmond. So for us, it's just great. And of course, we're also holding hands with Qatar and helping to build a sustainable and viable business. So my name's Christopher Fink. I'm the chair of the fashion department at VCUQ. And I have about 35-year career in the industry as a creative director. And so of the many jobs I've had, I always say I have been the creative director of like BCBG, creative director of Medora Garments, which is a very largest company in India manufacturing, creative director of Care Piscina and in Russia. I was the head designer at eToken, which is the third largest company in Japan. It just goes on. The list, I was creative director of Walmart. I mean, it's endless. So it's both high as well as we say, high and low. So it's like mass volume. And so there's a wide array of my personal experience. And now I am in academia. And I hope to talk a little bit about the passion and the sustainability and why we're back in academia. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Chris. How about you, Laura?
Yeah, hi. Thank you for having me. I'm super excited to have this conversation and see where it takes us. I am originally from Sydney, Australia, and I started my career in Australia as the head stylist of MTV Australia. And from there, I moved to New York, where I started working in magazines. I worked at Vogue and at W Magazine, and then launched into a freelance styling career where I worked with designers and a lot of celebrities, everyone from kind of Alicia Keys to Uma Thurman and Katie Holmes and Drake and Ewan McGregor and so on and so forth. And, you know, my journey to sustainability, because I think it's not always obvious how one goes from working in kind of, to Chris's point, working in sort of, high fashion for sure. And similarly consulting for brands and runway shows and advertising campaigns and doing, celebrity styling for the Oscars and the Grammys and so on and so forth to sustainability. But I think actually when you're really steeped in that world of fashion, to your original point that you brought up in your introduction, it was I was living the dream, but it was also really kind of overwhelming. I mean, I was on a plane every other day. I was never at home. I always had 20 trunks of clothes in tow with me. I had an office teeming with clothes. It was just volume, 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 produce, style this, style that, new clients. And it was thrilling and utterly exhausting. And I, by chance, was asked to consult for a sustainable basics brand. And that was sort of my entry point. And I first learned about the impact that fashion has on the environment, and was actually quite embarrassed given, how committed I was to fashion, that I hadn't even really thought about the impact it has on the broader world up until that point. And once I sort of got an insight into this idea that, this excess, this overproduction that existed in fashion that was actually tiring me out personally was similarly tiring out the planet, I really just never looked back. And so I really sought to find a way to bring my wealth of experience and contacts within the fashion industry to bring the broader topic of sustainability to a larger audience, which is why I ended up launching The Front Lash, which is a magazine and an education hub for women to learn how to shop more sustainably, be introduced to the ideas of what sustainability is, but in a way that, is infused with creativity and innovation, and, it doesn't, it's seen as the next frontier as fashion, the next frontier of fashion.
Wow. Firstly, thank you, Laura and Chris. You have such a wonderful experience that will have an impact on this panel. We're really grateful to have you here. Okay, before we start, I thought we start with to watch this little clip that we prepared in order to put content to the actual talk.
Great.
Here we go.
Fashion is $1 trillion industry, and according to the UN, it is also the second biggest polluter. Around 500,000 tons of microfiber clothing is now being dumped into the ocean every year, the same as 3 million barrels of oil. Even in the average household, WRAP estimates that the amount of new clothing bought by one family in a year gives off the same amount of emissions as driving a car for 6,000 miles. And to make, it takes enough water to fill 1,000 bathtubs. Our love of clothes is also contributing to plastic pollution, with one washload of polyester clothes sending up to 700,000 microplastic fibers back into the environment. But do we at least appreciate our clothes once we've bought them? Well, we send around 140 million pounds of our clothes to landfill every single year. And 1 in 6 of us have as many as 5 items in our wardrobe that we've never even worn.
True.
This is like really like when I was watching this video, to be honest, like I was emotional, especially because like I am, as a designer, I have to convey my I don't know, story, and like I want to succeed as a designer, but this is kind of like put me in the right direction, I guess. Laura, Chris, I would like to ask you both, what do you think is the biggest sustainability issue facing in the fashion world today? Chris, why we don't start with you?
Thank you. Everything is a big issue. Absolutely everything, no matter what you choose, is really the big issue because there's just so much. The one that I personally am attached to it is actually the point that which he brought in. He mentioned 140 pounds. My figures are 40 million tons of textile waste is sent to landfills every year. So this to me is just massive, and this is kind of my primary issue that concerns me the most and that I'm most passionate about is this type of waste, and not to mention what it takes to make these type of garments, and the water, as they discuss, in the dyeing process, and how the pollutants that it requires to do something like this. So this has been like a key issue. But what's interesting, Fahad, is that there's a lot of new technology. It's very exciting. This is like the most exciting time to be in fashion, because as much as we are confronted with all of this debris, shall we say, we're also confronted with a lot of opportunity and newness and technology. And so it's a very inventive, very creative, and a very like an emotional time to be in fashion, as you have just expressed yourself. And so a lot of what's happening now, and it's going to take a good 5 to 7 years for this to really be perfected, but they are developing machineries now that can take apart all this landfill and respin the fibers and create fresh textile, which is, it's a very complex process because they have to separate, let's say, polyester from cotton, and this type of procedure is very complex. But they're doing it, and Sweden is actually kind of a leader in this right now. So there's these companies that are focusing on this kind of thing. And do you know this company called Monkey, Monki? Are you familiar with them? They're very popular now. Yeah, they're actually devoting capsule collections specifically to this type of this fabrication. And so I mean, it's just an amazing new thing that's happening. But so there are solutions, you know, people are inventing new solutions. So for me personally, it's these landfills, you know, it's like repurposing and reusing these landfills, I think is really a big challenge right now.
Yeah, Chris, that's a really good point and very interesting way of looking at it. Laura, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I really love Chris's point. I couldn't agree more that, you know, we really are at the precipice of kind of this massive change taking place in the industry. And, you know, I do think that it has gone from, sustainability has gone from something that is kind of confusing and uncool to something that is, you know, really exciting and innovative. You know, I've noticed it in my own work. So, you know, my work is so much around messaging and speaking around sustainability and sort of, you know, presenting it as like, what is this thing? And, you know, Fahad, when you ask what I think one of the biggest issues is, I mean, I agree, it's everything, right? Like, but then, of course, everything becomes nothing. So you always have to zero in on something. Yeah. And, you know, for me, one of the biggest things, which I just think is also a broader issue that we're dealing with at this time, is the message that sustainability at its crux is about reducing carbon emissions.
Right.
And I find that, so, you know, a fact that, you know, kind of keeps me awake at night is like over 8% of global greenhouse gases comes from the fashion industry. Yeah. That's essentially the same as the total amount of greenhouse gases that comes out of Europe. So the footprint that the fashion industry has on the world, the carbon footprint, which is the singular thing that we really need to keep in, that we really need to bring down to, you know, net zero within a decade, from fashion is just enormous. And so as an industry, that gives us enormous power to be trailblazers and to have a really huge impact on the trajectory of our planet. But I also find that, you know, within the sustainable fashion space and the way that it is talked about in mainstream media, in mainstream magazines, this fact of the purpose of it, which is to bring down carbon emissions, is often lost in the shuffle. And we can, you know, sometimes get into this zone of, you know, all of a sudden, like there's these conversations about, you know, like organic cotton, and yes, organic cotton matters, but, you know, are we keeping our eye on the prize? Like, is a brand trying to tout sustainability by introducing a little bit of organic cotton where they're still producing en masse enormous amounts of carbon emissions, and we never really have to address it? So, you know, for me, I just think it's really important, especially given that, you know, the topic of climate change has also just become enormously popular in a way that it never has before. And fashion is a really amazing vehicle for bringing excitement, innovation, creativity, celebrity, beauty, fun to this issue that can be quite overwhelming. And that's where I see a lot of opportunity as well within the fashion industry to really be at the forefront of talking about this issue in a way that is using something that, to Fahad's point and Chris's point, is emotionally very important to us. And, you know, basically bringing in the skill sets of creatives to think about ways to tackle, you know, the issue of our generation and our lifetime.
I want to add something to that. I want to tell you a story, okay? In 2005, I was creative director of Walmart. We sold 1 million pairs of jeans every day, okay? Now, we were heroes. You see the picture behind me, this is the Garment Center. This is where I used to work in New York. We were heroes. So when we walked down these streets here, it was like a ticker day parade, people throwing roses. You know, we were like, oh my God, we love you. Today, they would probably be bricks. Okay, so you know what I'm saying? Like, oh my God, thank God I'm in Qatar. You know, it's unimaginable in 2005 that we would even be having this conversation. Do you follow what I'm saying? Yeah. So then in 2007, Walmart decided to go green. Exactly, just that organic cotton, decided to go green. So Walmart, which is their whole theory is ready, shoot, aim. This is how they operate. Ready, shoot, aim. They bought 1/3 of the cotton supply in the world because they wanted to go green. Now at that time I thought, well, this is ridiculous. No one will ever buy into this. This is ridiculous, you know, whatever. But they did it, okay? And so they did crop rotation and they did all this stuff in Africa. And I mean, they really, you know, it's about getting it right, you know, and their heart was in the right place for once, and they really wanted to do this. But what they found out to be true is that ultimately it was the carbon footprint of the jet fuel was more detrimental than anything else that they were basically making the planet worse as a result through their green efforts. And so really is a challenge, and maybe we'll talk about that later, about getting it right. And, you know, and it's okay if we, you know, don't beat yourself up, you know, just get started, you know, but it's an interesting story, yeah.
Yeah,
go ahead, Todd.
I totally agree with both of you. Like, I think now it's time to provoke emotion in order to make change, you know. Yeah. Now that we better understand the challenges we are facing, let's talk about what we can do to make those changes. With you, let's start with you, Chris. Like, I have a couple of questions with you. I wrote like a couple of questions, but I wanted to keep it fluid still. Right. I would like to talk to you about how you view the role of education in promoting sustainability from your point of view. Great.
So that's where it needs to start. Okay, that's where it needs to start. So we're activists now. We're social and environmental activists. This is who we are. We're on a mission of goodness. That's really what we're up to. And for anyone who joins the sustainability wagon, you're doing something good. You're really doing something good. And really this karma, we're creating this karma. What was a horrible pollutant, the response to it is this most kind of magical karma that's happening from everyone. But in terms of education, it's about bringing it to the course. So we have starting, actually Naila Althani, who you know, who's an artist, she's going to be teaching our fashion, sustainability and fashion course this spring. So we're bringing courses devoted strictly to sustainability. At the same time, it's such an important issue for us that we put it in our mission statement in our fashion department. So we have a manifesto of social and environmental responsibility that it's inclusive of sustainability, transparency, and diversity. These are 3 issues that we're promoting, which is all part of that sustainable bandwagon. And so in education, we are educating. And what's surprising, and I think we had a conversation yesterday about this, that specifically in Qatar, when the kids were not taught about sustainability in high school. So when they've come into college, when we're presenting these concepts, they're like, wow, you know, but they have responded so quickly. I mean, it's amazing how, you know, that's the great thing about this movement is that you don't have to be an expert. You only have to have a passion. You only have to have an interest. And there's just so much opportunity here. So we just finished an event with Wise Shake a Hands Initiative Wise, where we did a big sustainability event. We started our own department called Eco Luxury Lab for the fashion department. It's a new initiative. It's very exciting, where we're bringing in world leaders, and we're doing workshops focusing on luxury, which is of course important to Qatar, but eco luxury. Okay, and we're doing workshops. We're doing perfume workshops, and we have a very famous, world famous illustrator tomorrow who's giving a lecture. That's a little more complex, that topic, but so we're flooding the department with initiatives because the students are interested. Not only that, but because we have to stand for something. Education today has to embrace this. And if they don't embrace, if the fashion industry or a fashion department is not embracing sustainability, then they're not with it. You know, they miss the boat. Do you know what I'm saying? It's such an important topic. And at the same time, it's the most exciting topic. It's why I came back into education. I mean, this is probably, in my opinion, of my 40 years being out there, this is probably one of the most exciting times for a young designer. You know, it really is. You know, the kind of repositioning of the business model, so to speak, the focusing on craft, less is more, you know, focusing on smaller, more meaningful collections. These are great opportunities for people interested in starting their business, turning locally as opposed to internationally for your production, going local. It's such a huge, fabulous opportunity, especially for young people. So, I mean, I could talk for hours on this, and I'm not going to do it. I'm sorry, Laura. I just love listening to you, so I'm just going to back out of this one right now. And say, you know,
I have still like 2 questions.
I'll try and get back in. Sorry.
No, you already actually kind of like answered the second question. It's like, what VCUQ doing today to address those challenges? But by establishing this department, you kind of like stepped on the exact issue. Like by establishing this department, like I think within the university, it's important. But again, like, you know, like when you think of young designers, they're living in this climate where we really want to be, when they look at fashion history, they see all these designers using all this type of materials, they go and scaling up very quickly and stuff like that. And now we're telling them, oh, no, you can't use this material, or you cannot scale on this level, stuff like that. And they feel like left alone, and they feel like they the previous generation, they like expose themselves more. So how you can convince young designers to the path that we took before, it's not working for us anymore or working for our environment, and this is the way you can do it.
No, they think we're stupid. No, there's no challenge here. They're looking at us like, okay, they're the cleanup crew. You know, that's, if anything, you know, it's resentment. We messed it up. You know, they're coming in and they're fixing it up. You know, like, we had our turn and look what we did. You know, none of us meant to. God knows we didn't. We didn't realize we were doing this. It was kind of, you know, foolish blunder. But, you know, we messed it up. And now these kids are coming in to clean. These are the ones that are going to save the planet. So it's important that we educate them, you know, and to get them out there and to open their minds to being creative, finding creative solutions. But, you know, they're the ones that are going to clean it up. And they're really going to lead us. You know, this is the thing about education now. This idea of like, I have history and I'm teaching you, that's over with. These kids are so much more advanced than we are, than I am in terms of technology, that I'm taking cues from them. Do you follow? So it's about, you know, in terms of education, we're just inspiring them to be inventive and creative. You know, they come to the table with a lot of information, you know, and, you know, they're kind of the leaders here. Did I answer that question for you?
Yeah, I'm glad, to be honest, like you put it in that perspective, because back in my head, I always have that fear, but like, I'm confident that actually VCUQ, they are doing the right direction, because they have the right candidate,
There's, beyond what we did, there is so much fabulous new technology in terms of fabrication that they are going to leave us in the dust. I mean, I was in a presentation yesterday with Khalud. I don't know if you know him. He just got a patent from VCU. He's got all this nanotechnology and fabrication at VCU. It's like, he's a genius, you know, and these kids are like just going, oh my God, you know, they're like, oh my, this is what, you know, there's so much excitement, you know, in terms of, he has this heat resistant fabrication, this other fabrication that allows in vitamin D for abayas, you know, I mean, it's just, it's unbelievable. Oh no, it's unbelievable what he's doing. And, you know, the technology, it's just very exciting, you know, it's really exciting at what they're doing. But, you know, they can also reuse and recycle, and that's very cool. You know what I mean? Like they can like like go in and reuse other fabrics and other garments and stuff. And, you know, I mean, there's so much opportunity to be creative.
Wow, that's amazing, to be honest, like especially the abaya with the
it's amazing.
Like, because, you know, like in Qatar, like I think 6 months of the year, the weather is really harsh. So we don't go out. We are constantly using AC at home or offices or transportation. We always use our own private cars in order to transport. So like we are not exposed to the sun, even though like we live in the desert. Like, I mean,
it's so true. It's like when I lived in Florida, I never went to the beach. You know, it's just, you know, it's how it is. You know what I'm saying? But so, Laura, I want to hear from you. Enough of me.
Yeah, exactly. Like Laura, we talked about how we can convince the students to make this change, but how about the professionals? How do you convince people in your field to think sustainably?
Yeah, you know, I think it's twofold. I think it's convincing professionals and it's also convincing consumers, and you do both somewhat in the same way. Yeah. And, you know, what's kind of interesting is, so for the front lash, you know, I basically look for designers that create sustainably and sort of ask them about their process. And, you know, I've worked with designers of, you know, varying levels for, you know, too long. And the thing that really has really struck me over the years as I've interviewed more and more of these brands that, you know, that run sustainable businesses. And by sustainable, I mean they have built their business organically. They've been very considerate in the ways in which they produce things. They've not rushed. They've not been in a headspace of, I must become enormous immediately. I am going to be very mindful and creative and grow my business organically. And I really mean it when I tell you that those designers are like 100-fold happier people, and their product is really good, and the loyalty they get from their customers is really high, versus, you know, all the designers that I've worked with over the years who, you know, they may have had a meteoric rise, they might be mass produced, they might be really popular, they might be interviewed in Vogue, and they are burning out and exhausted. And they're not just burning out physically, they're burning out financially. And they're overextended in every way that you can possibly be overextended. And so, you know, there's a way in which, to Christopher's point too, this education in how you build a sustainable business, how you build a product that has longevity, and how you ensure that you maintain a sense of feeling like you are communicating your vision as a designer, that you are being innovative, that you are bringing joy and creativity and passion to your work versus chasing elusive goals that are not necessarily aligned with you or a particular customer or anything aside from what you think, you know, what someone else has set for you. And it's really been striking to me to sort of, I only existed in one sphere for a long time. And we were all in this sphere running around being like, we're so busy and we're so exhausted, but this is the dream, right? And we're all like, yeah, totally. When it was not, like, we were all dying inside a little bit. And then to sort of leapfrog to these other businesses that are also successful, that are making money, that are kind of bringing something interesting to the table. But are doing it in a way that just matches their values, matches their ethic, and has longevity. I know businesses where, like, I know brands that have been sustainable for a long time. They never talked about it because it wasn't, you know, necessary to their marketing. Yeah. And they've lasted, and they are happy. They are happier in their business and in their work. And then I've known other brands who, you know, other designers who have kind of, you know, like a comet, they've lit up and flamed out and, you know, whittled to the ground. And yeah. I know a lot of fashion professionals that have done that. I
Nice.
know a lot of creatives who sort of come in the industry and they get spat out the other side. And so we're talking about a holistic change here that I actually feel like the minute you offer an in, and this is true for consumers and for professionals alike, the minute you offer this like opening of like, hey, you can approach this in a way that feels really good for you, that embraces your creativity, that allows you to be a little more slow and mindful with the way that you do it. But Chris's point, still exciting, still innovative, still thinking of new ways of doing things, you know. People welcome it. It's kind of like the minute you give permission, to Chris's point, people are off and running. And that is true of the, you know, of professionals in the industry, and it's also true of consumers. And so there's actually something really thrilling about just providing that on-ramp of like doing way. And it was a relief for me to sort of get to that place. And it's certainly like the ways in which I participate in the fashion world are just so different now to how they used to be. I would never return to the way that it was before.
No, it just seems so old now, right? Seems tired.
Yeah,
Like
I mean,
tired,
to your point,
right?
look at it, and you're like, oh God, that was so pointless.
That's so true. Like,
I'm telling you, they got it much better, these kids.
hopefully, like actually one of the audience that actually commented that he's really happy, Salima, she said like she's really happy that students actually those days that actually like this kind of like development, which is amazing. But like it's still like, even like if you once you convince the professionals from the industry, like a broader audience, like consumers, and especially like celebrities, taste makers, embracing how we can make them embrace sustainability, how we can see them like on the red carpet of Cannes Film Festival wearing something completely like eco-friendly and stuff like that. Like from your experience, Lara, working with celebrities, do you think that is a challenge, and like how do they embrace it and stuff like that?
Listen, celebrities will go wherever the wind of popularity takes them. You know, like they're like politicians in that way. And you know, I mean, we saw last year, we are increasingly seeing sustainability initiatives on the red carpet. You know, at Cannes this year, Kate Blanchett re-wore several of her previous outfits, and it's not the first time that they've done that. You know, I know Elizabeth Stewart, her stylist, you know, that's something that they've been working towards. You know, the red carpet is a little tricky in the sense that, you know, it's how celebrities make their money. They, you know, there's the red industrial complex and they get paid to wear things on the red carpet. And so, you know, there has to be ways in which that business model shifts in a way that we can embrace both. So kind of happens in conversation between the designers and the celebrities. But that is a conversation that's absolutely happening. We had Gucci, who, you know, remade a dress. How do you say her name? Sashay, for the Oscars last year. You have the green carpet that Livia Firth has every year. So it is definitely making its way onto the red carpet. And, you know, even as in as simple ways as wearing vintage on the red carpet is kind of making a comeback.
Great point.
There is an eagerness. I mean, you know, for me, like my celebrity clients that I worked with, you know, when I first became interested in sustainability and would sort of present options and be like, by the way, this was made in such and such a way, and this is what it means. Like, they're all in. You know, celebrities are very eager to kind of have something additional to talk about on the red carpet. I think that's underestimated a lot too. You know, they suffer from the same thing we all suffer from, which is like, oh my gosh, it's another red carpet. It's another look. When you add a fresh perspective and you've got an opportunity to bring something new, they welcome it. I think celebrities are really good partners. I mean, anytime we talk to celebrities for the Front Lash, they're really excited. They're really happy to be a part of something that, to Chris's point, is the future.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah. I'm glad to hear that, to be honest. Like, Laura and Chris, this question for both of you. We have talked about how fast fashion and disability and the huge challenges that the industry faces. How can designers and stylists approach fashion differently? How can we design for the future? How we can encourage creative styling to make a product last longer? Laura, why we don't start with you, since actually like you were kind of like stepping that.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think that I think it just comes down to this idea of like a stylist's job is communicating the culture back to the culture, right? So it starts with this idea of moving away from a language and a speed that is just not sustainable. So like, what's trendy, what's not trendy, what's hot, what's not hot, things like that. Like thinking about styling with longevity in mind versus turning out a whole bunch of looks for no good reason. So I think it's sort of twofold. It's like a bit of a slowing down, but it's also just bringing in new and non-typical designers to the table, bringing in the innovators, bringing in sustainable designers. And it's also, this idea, like I was first excited about styling when, and kind of, I guess, like everyone considers what they looked up to the heyday, but for me it was sort of very much the early 90s, and this styling was this mishmash of like, here's your vintage t-shirt with like a couture gown, and there was this very unique element to styling that's really been stripped from the craft, and it's kind of fashion magazines and fashion styling and styling existing on social media has kind of turned it into a mass market, and returning to this idea of like true individuality and the idea that that individuality has longevity. It's not disposable. Like I really reject this idea that your style is disposable.
Yeah.
I think
yeah, we're all, yes.
It's crazy.
That's an important point. Yeah.
And stylists never felt that way. That was something that was sort of thrust upon us by brands, who ultimately pay us to do our job. So, going back to this idea of like really finding like your unique style voice, like who am I? What do I want to say? What makes me feel good? What makes me feel happy? And sort of leaning into that and bringing more individuality into the ways in which we dress ourselves, and joy and happiness, and, with clothing. It sounds very simple, and it sort of is, but it is also really powerful because it's just a rejection of kind of the mass consumption culture that kind of that creates a lot of harm in many ways, from the planet to our psyches. It's about moving away from that.
Sure. How about you, Chris? Like, how you think like designers should like produce a product that lasts longer? And like, do you think there is desire for that?
Okay, so you're talking about craft, which is critical now. So the shift has come from, if you're going from fast fashion to now what's happening now, the shift of this mass consumption is becoming actually more localized, where people are going, instead of going, as I said, to Asia, they're going in their neighborhood. They're going to the souk. Yeah. They're going to the craft, and they're looking at detail. And so in terms of slow fashion, they're creating items that are more mindful. Things that are more mindful, okay? And this idea, it really starts from the individual, I mean, if you're a young designer, let's say, we're talking about new designers, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's say you're a young designer. If you don't have a mission statement of sustainability, and if you don't have sustainability in your mission statement, in your DNA, in your brand today, you are not in business. You are not important, and no one wants to know you. And it's that simple. and that is where it's at. And so it's critical for a young person or anybody going into business that you understand that. So what does that mean? So my suggestion is the first step is eat healthy, learn to meditate, go to the gym, don't stress, and begin your journey into like kind of sustainability, because that's kind of where it's happening now. This shift from mass consumption, is everywhere. The small and mindful and craft come to the forefront. Artisans from that have retired has since been brought out of retirement. We just did it at VCU. We brought an 80-year-old handbag designer to come help our students do this initiative we're doing for 51 East. These, craft comes to the forefront, things that last, sustainability is what lasts, things. So when you're dealing with sustainability, we saw a handbag that this lady designed 30 years ago. We thought it was brand new, because of the way that it was made, because the detailing that was done was so exquisite, and the leather and just everything about it was done so beautifully in this very traditional way that is sustainable, sustainability. So it's really how things are happening, and this transparency, this topic, I don't want to go on too much, the idea of transparency is critical, so people in their hang tags, you can go online and they'll tell you who sewed the garment, what country it was in, what was her name, who was the person that sewed this garment. A very important point that Laura brought up was this idea of disposable, this concept of disposable human beings. Do you know what I'm saying? This concept of disposable anything. Relationships were disposable. This is a very important aspect in terms of writing new business models, in the sense that currently, when you go into a factory, you don't have a contract. What you have is a purchase order, which means get out. Thank you very much, pay, get out. There's no relationship being built. So there's no real opportunity to truly understand what are some of the more effective ways that you can save money and still maintain quality, that you don't have to rip people off. You don't have to pay the sewers horrible wages and, all of these horrible things that we are guilty of as an industry, which can be rectified in building relationships. So this is a whole very important conversation, which we can talk about another time. But sustainability, I just want to say one thing here. The World Health Organization has 17 steps of sustainability if you want to be sustainable. It's the most gorgeous thing you'll ever read in your life. It's 17 of the most beautiful things. I'm not going to jeopardize this thing to read all of them too, but it's like no poverty, zero hunger. What does it mean to be sustainable as a country, as a globe? Gender equality, good health, well-being, all of these elements come into this movement. And that's why it's just so attractive on so many levels to so many young people and to people in general, and even people my age.
Yeah, definitely. I totally agree with you. I think especially the Z generation, they're I call them the activists, they are
Totally.
I see young girls, they reject to buy a water bottle from the market, and the minute they actually, as young girls here in Qatar, they inspire me to stop purchasing bottled water from the market. They no, you have to carry yeah, exactly. And I go to the coffee shop with my mug because I was bullied by young girls here when they see me purchasing coffee and getting this plastic bags, cups and stuff like that. So I'm I don't want to be bullied by them. So I bought my own mug and I go to the coffee shop.
Bully is the perfect word. It's the my sister was just telling me that her daughter had, for her birthday, she's in college in Virginia, she had 17 girlfriends over for her birthday to spend the weekend, and my sister was cooking for them, and they were like, no, I'm not going to eat this. No, I'm not. It's oh God,
Exactly. Laura, to be honest, I went through your blog and went to your website for the front launch, and I was really impressed with the number of interviews you have done, the topics you were covering, and that kind of made me wonder, do you think your initiative helped to reach to a new type of audiences, and your message was delivered? How you think your initiatives reach to a wider audience, and did it have an impact? Can you measure it?
Yeah, I mean, I can only measure it by sort of the feedback that I get, and obviously like the metric that we have for the site, but I think that the way that I come to sustainability, I just have an enormous amount of empathy for wherever people are at. I mean, like for me, I have just totally immersed myself in the world of climate change and sustainability. And so like there are times at which, on a personal level, I get frustrated at the pace of change. However, I'm sure plenty of people felt that way with me 10 years ago. And so I just have an enormous amount of empathy for where people are at. And I understand that like a relationship with fashion and a relationship with sustainability, frankly, is really personal, and it just takes time. And I'm genuinely really interested in learning how people got there, what their tipping point was, and how they've sustained that. And I think taking that approach has been, people really respond to that. And, as I mentioned earlier, one of the biggest things I find is that just a sense of relief, this idea, like, I don't compromise on an aesthetic in any way. I will never not be someone very sensitive to aesthetics. I will never not love clothing. I will never not love styling and putting together looks and creativity. It's really fundamental to who I am. I'll have a bad day if things don't look right. I haven't abandoned that in any way. But there, is a way in which you can infuse, your values.
Right.
I think offering that opportunity to people, they are so grateful for it. So, I can only measure it in the sense that when I first started talking about this, there was very little interest, and now there is a lot. My inbox is flooded with people who have questions and want to know, and celebrities now come to me saying, "Oh, you're the girl, you're the person who can style me sustainably." I mean, that was a huge shift that happened to me, is that especially younger celebrities, younger actresses come to me and say, "Okay, you make things look good and you know how to do it sustainably. How can you do that?" And so I just think by providing an opportunity in a non-judgmental space is just really important, and especially when it comes to like women and clothing and all of and men and whomever, and clothing and sort of everything that accompanies that, finding that space to Chris's point, to introducing people to the topic of sustainability more broadly speaking. It's a really powerful tool. I mean, I've watched people move into activism and political activism, via fashion, and that's super exciting. That's a thrilling thing.
Yeah, I totally agree. Laura, Chris, we have an audience with us here today that undoubtedly love to learn more about what they can do today to support more sustainable fashion industry. What is your top recommendation? Let's start with you, Chris. Like, what do you think? Like, this is small steps that we can take in our daily life in order to affect change.
Sure. It's about, well, first of all, there has to be a desire. You have to have a passion and a desire. That's all it takes. I mean, it's such an easy club to join. Do you know what I'm saying? It's just, you know what? I like that, and as Laura kept saying, values, we're really turning in big time back to values. And I think this generation really is motivated by values. And so I think it's the passion and just the desire to do it. It's, to be inquisitive. Look at the labels. How is it made? What are these fabrics? What possibly could have, what did it go through to make these? What's the carbon footprint that maybe something like this has happened? Really just to be inquisitive. The best thing anyone can do is just to bring their inquisitiveness to the table. And you know, sustainability, and even like Laura said, you just have to introduce and then get out of the way. And a big part of it with our students is we just needed to introduce them to what we're talking about, what the possibilities are here, and then we need to get out of their way. They just absorb it, and they, you know, it's so creative. And this is a highly, highly creative time right now in fashion. It really gives young people an opportunity to step to the front of the line immediately, which is very, very unique for an industry. Usually you have to apprentice and you have to, do you know what I'm saying? You have to spend all this time. And here's an opportunity where you can step right to the front. You can join in and really make a name for yourself at a very young age. And it's just, you know, how you embrace these type of concepts, which are very important to the planet, you know. So that's kind of my take on it.
How about you, Lara?
Yeah, I think I would say there's like two very simple things that you can do immediately. One is explore and embrace kind of the secondhand clothing market, and of course sustainable designers, which are often smaller designers, and you know, you can find those in various places. You can obviously go to the Front Lash, but also just on social media. I mean, with social media, it's just so easy to find, you know, different secondhand marketplaces, upcycled marketplaces, sustainable brands. So, you know, first and foremost, expand your idea of where you might want to shop. You know, would be my very first thing to do. My second thing to do is, you know, take some time to interrogate your relationship with clothing. You know, it's
Right.
like the only thing that exists between us and pure nudity is the clothing we wear on our body. It's really
Right.
like quite a profound relationship that we just don't spend enough time thinking about. And I think about so much, the thing I loved about working with celebrities and creating a look for someone on the red carpet is you're just embedded into a moment of kind of how you're going to be perceived by the public, and witnessing how differently people are perceived you according to what they wear and how they feel in what they wear and what that does for them. And it really helped me appreciate really how powerful clothing is in that way, like how powerful it is for an expression. It's played out. It feels like a trope to say, you know, clothing is how you express yourself, because that language is co-opted to sell us more things. But if we remove the selling from it and we think about it truly for what it is, it's really quite an incredible thing. And spending time interrogating, what is my relationship with clothing? Going through your wardrobe, what have I bought? What do I wear? What is my favorite thing to wear? Does it turn out that I actually only wear these three things over and over again, like me, who is totally guilty of that? Great. So then let's stick with those things, and then let's be really mindful with what we add to that level. Or, you know what, it's not that cool, but actually I feel it's not that cool, but actually I feel really amazing in this look. Great. So wear that look. You know, spending time going through your wardrobe, getting reacquainted with how clothing makes you feel. And to Chris's point, looking at those pieces and saying, where did this come from? Who made this? Like, what is the process involved in this? And really kind of having a sense of curiosity about clothing, apparel, shoes. Like, if you've ever watched things being made behind the scenes, it's really quite an amazing thing. And, you know, it can be amazing in a negative way, unfortunately. It can be amazing in a really positive way. But let's not wonder about what that is.
Yeah.
And make sure to put more thought into these garments, which, you know, are just like the singular thing separating us from the world. You know, they're like the, you know, the armor that we wear in the world. They really matter. And if we think about it in that way, you know, it can really just shift the way you approach clothing in a way that is really fulfilling, actually.
Yeah, definitely. Like especially with me, like empathy, it's a key element here. You know, like to like having a daughter that I want to leave her with a better universe. You know, like I know like my action is not will change the whole environment, but at least I can look at my daughter eye and say I tried, I did something. So that is something like really key element here. I think the conversations today, it's literally like lit up. I think so many people, I saw so many questions, and I'm really excited to actually we had this opportunity to talk to you, Chris and Laura. In this note, I really want to thank you both for your generosity and sharing your knowledge and your background to the public. And I think this is kind of impact. This is the impact that actually we're looking for, you know, like people sharing ideas, people sharing the things they're going through. There is Fatma. She have a question. Can I? Yes, you can, Fatma. You can. If you can go to Q&A and leave your question there, you can.
Which Fatma is that? Do we know her?
I think she's one of your students, though. Fatma Rahmatallah. Rahmatallah. Yeah, I think it's one of your students. Fatma, go ahead and ask the question. Type it down. I can answer. I can ask them for you. I know we're over time, and I'm sorry, especially for someone in Sydney. I think it's 3 o'clock in the morning. We're sorry we kept you up all day. Yeah, let's see if Fatma, if you can type the question. Not sure if she can hear me. Okay. I think in this note, I don't think she got it. In this note, thank you again, Chris and Laura. It's our pleasure to have you here, and I'm really grateful.
She responded.
Oh, here you go. When setting up a fashion project, what does it need? University degree in fashion? Oh, I think this is a question for you.
Okay, I'm happy. What is the most requested type? Clothes and sew for my sister at home, but I don't know how to get out in the world. What are the problems that I may face in choosing a fashion field? You know what we have? We have a community education program that's maybe more user friendly. You know, the VCU undergraduate program is a 4-year program. It's a BFA, Bachelor of Fine Art. But we're also offering a fast track program. We're in the process of doing it. So it could really help you to bring up your technique and your qualities. You know, you don't have to go to college for fashion. You don't. You know, you do have to have a passion more so than anything. And then, yes, you need talent and passion. And we can help you to mold that. We can help you to learn the basics and learn, you know, bring our knowledge in to help you get your start. But ultimately, it's you that's going to do it, you know. And many people did not go to college for fashion, and there are many avenues to everything nowadays, you know. What we offer when you come to college for us is that we have experts that you get to interact with, and you get mentored, which is the key part when you're beginning to develop your signature, that you want to have some you know, constructive criticisms and to learn the techniques of what it takes to help you launch your business. But it's really talent and drive, you know, right, Fahad? You know.
Yeah, it is. And the thing is, yeah, like I think, to be honest, like especially the fashion industry, it's like you live it, you eat it, you walk it, like it become part of everything you do, the way you think, the way you interact with people and stuff like that. Like people ask me like, why you only like meet certain people? Because I'm like, this is the people that actually will take me up. Like, you know, like I make sure my network is the right network. People I spend time with and stuff like that. I spend a lot of time researching and reading, because this is the path that actually I chose for myself. And I think so many designers, they agree with me today. Like it's a lifestyle. It's not something I can do it in life.
Yeah, you'll never. If you're a designer, you do it until you die. You know. Yes, but I'll give you one hint. I am going to give you one hint. I'm going to give you a present today, Fatma, and that is, you asked what would be an interesting business in Qatar. What we're finding, what we're personally interested in, is there's this movement towards modest sportswear. I don't mean like Adidas, I'm saying sportswear like separates, you know, things that you can wear to work and things of that sort. But this modest, with the focus on modest, especially being in Qatar, there's a very interesting market that's evolving and something that I think people should really look at more. Yeah. And sustainable.
Yeah, sustainable, exactly. Thank you so much, everyone. Again, like I'm really looking forward to see what the outcome of this panel discussion, and hopefully we see you soon, Lara, in Qatar, when the COVID-19 situation gets more stabilized.
Yeah, would love to see you.
Yeah,
come visit us at school. We'll put you to work.
Yeah, exactly.
Be careful. When I invite you, I'm usually inviting you to do a workshop. So.
Yeah, thank you so much, everyone. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry, Lara.
Yes, no, thank you so much for having me. This was really great. Thank you so much.
Yeah, we're looking forward to stay tuned. There is so many workshop and talk Rawad actually cooked for you. Whoever is watching us, please go to Rawad website and check the other panels. This is, I think, the end of the session. Thank you so much again, and good night and good morning for you, Lara.
Thank you, Fahad. Thanks for inviting us. Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. Take good care.
You too.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.